Hi there and welcome to the third lesson in the traditional Shetland fiddle music series. My name is Jenna Reid and I'm going to be taking you through a tune for each lesson from the traditional music in Shetland. And all of the information and materials can be found online, so do make sure you look at that and download anything that you think will be helpful, as I'm sure it will be. We're going to do a jig for this lesson. And the previous two lessons we've done reels, which are very much the staple tune that is played in Shetland and very popular in the Isles of Shetland. And this is because it's all linked towards the traditional dancing which used to happen and still does to this day, and reels were the tunes that were played for those folk to dance to. So we're moving away slightly from that and keeping within the traditional style. We're going to look at a tune, a jig, a 6/8 rhythm, which is very different to a reel or 4/4 rhythm. And the jig is actually in fact quite new to Shetland, and there's very few traditional jigs, and this is the sort of tune that's been more so written in the contemporary field of traditional style. And we're going to do a tune called Margaret, which is written by Ian Burns, and he was a very famous fiddle player from Shetland, has written very many tunes, and one of his is a session tune called Spudiskerry, which is very popular in sessions. And I've chosen this tune because it is different to the reel, and it gives you a slightly different angle on what's going on in Shetland perhaps nowadays, and the different levels of tune type that are played, as opposed to those which were done maybe 100 years ago, which were all mainly reels for the dancing. So we're going to do this tune, as I said, a jig written by Ian Burns. So I'm going to play it through for you a few times, and just before we start, let's make sure that we are in tune, and I'll give you the strings, starting off with an A. And a D. And a G. And then the last one there, E. Okay, so let's begin with this jig, and as I said in the previous lessons, we'll break it up and into small phrases so we can learn it. So let's start with just having a wee listen to it. That was the real Margaret, written by Ian Burns. Let's break that up into small phrases and go through the tune slowly until we learn it, starting with the first half. So from the beginning then. Let's do that one again. next phrase. And again. So let's see if we can put those two together, starting with our top G. And a few more times. And one more time. The next phrase. Okay, let's see if we can put all of those three together now. Let's go on, and the next phrase is a repeated section from the first part now. The first phrase. Now as you can see, that's just a copy of what we did before. Let's just go over it one more time. Now let's add on the ending to the first section. I'll play it through for you. Let's do that one more time. That is the entire first section. So let's go over that a few times at that speed just to get the notes under our belt. So from the top then. Section there. Obviously I'm doing quite a lot of bowing in that, which is shaping the phrasing of this particular tune. We're going to look at that later once we've learnt the notes. It's very important to make sure that the notes are in our head before we start to work on bowing or any other part of the tune. It's very important that we establish all the notes and make sure we've got that in our head. So let's go on to the second half now, and let's take that phrase by phrase again. I'll play it once through just so you can have a reminder of how it goes. So this is on to the second half now. Second half there. I did it twice through there just to show you the repeat. So let's break that up again into smaller sections, and starting obviously with the first. So moving on to the second phrase. And again. Now let's see if we can put those two together now. Times. Now let's go on and do the third phrase. And let's do that again, that section. Now let's see if we can add that on to the first two. Now let's do that a few more times. Now the next section starts exactly the same way. I'll play it through for you. So it's just got a slightly different ending. I'll just go over that one more time. So let me play the first time and then the second time, and then you'll hear how they're different. So from the beginning of the second half. And it's the same beginning to this next section again. same as the first time through, and now we're going to add on the ending. So we're up at the top, and that's exactly where the ending starts. Okay, so a short recap on that whole second half. It's quite a long second half. So you have our first half, which starts and so on, and it ends up high. And then you have the same start to the second phrase, which ends like this. And then we go back to the first phrase, which ends up high. And then we're going to add on the ending, which is actually stolen from the first half. So let's just put all of that together. So from the beginning of the second half. Phrase 2. Back to phrase 1. The entire tune, Barbara Elmsie. And the other sort of difference between that and the usual traditional reels that are played in Shetland is that we're covering right from the G string all the way up to the E string, and that's very unusual in traditional tunes. If you've seen the first and second lessons, those are all centred around maybe 1 or 2 strings at one particular time. And the difference between that and this tune is that we're reaching over the whole 4 strings on the fiddle. So there's another difference between that and the slightly more contemporary style of tune writing at the present time. So let's have a little look at the bowings that I was doing there. Again, this is a different technique that's used for playing jigs. In reels, it's very straightforward where the downbeat should go and where the bowing should be, but in this jig it's slightly different. There's a lot of bowing over the bar, and that's how we create this sort of swingy rhythm. And it starts off with, usually when we have an up bow, like an upbeat rather, like what we do in this tune, the downbeat is the F. So usually you'd play this G, which is the upbeat, with an up bow, to then land on a down bow for the downbeat, like this. However, that is more in the style of, say, a Scottish fiddle player, or you might say a Scottish traditional dance band would play it in that style. However, from Shetland it's slightly different, and instead of separating those first two notes, we're going to slur them both down on a down bow. And that same kind of pattern is going to follow on through this first half. And as you can hear, it makes a lot of difference, even just slurring those first two notes together. Instead of going. And separately bowing the whole tune out. It gives it more lift if you can add this bowing in. So, just going over that once more, slurring down with a down bow on the first two notes. And there's another slur. And another. And the same again. That's all that we want to add into the first half. Even those 4 little bits of bowing will add in so much more lift. And if you were to write this tune out on a page, you'd realise that you were bowing over the bar from the last beat, the last quaver of one bar into the first quaver of another. So I'll just demonstrate that one more time. So that's the first section there. You might notice I was using quite a lot of bows. Personally, I like to use a lot of bow, as this is what we're creating our sound with. Obviously it's very, very important that our fingers are in the right place to create accurate tuning and the right notes, but it's very important that we keep an eye on what our bow is doing, and to use from the heel to the tip is better if you can, as it creates a better sound in my own personal opinion, and it's better to do so, as that's the reason that we've got a bow this size. If we were to use smaller bows, we'd have a much smaller bow to do that with. So try and use the heel to the tip as often as possible, and really make the most use out of having this length of bow. So let's go over that first half one more time. So that also creates a nice tone when we're using that long bows. If we were on the other side going to use very small bows, it doesn't sound bad, but it's a much more fluent and a warmer tone to use longer bows, and try and put that into most of your playing. And it's very, very helpful to do so, and it creates a nice sound. Let's go on and look over the bowings of the second half. It's very, very similar to what we've done in the first half, but let's just have a recap over it just to make it clear. So the second half, again, we're going to slur the upbeat and the first beat of the bar together on a down bow. gives you the idea of where to put the bones in, and as I said, it's very similar to what we're doing in the first half, and that is what the main things that I would look out for in this particular tune. Making sure we're using plenty of bow to create a nice tone, and watching out for the bowing, because that is what is going to create the sound and the phrasing that we want in this tune. It's a different technique to playing a reel and involves different things to make it sound the way that we want to. So, as I said before, all this information and materials that you might need to know are available to download, and I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. And this tune was Miss Margaret Elmsie, written by Ian Burns. Just to finish off, I'll play through the tune a couple of times through for you to play along with.